Well, the big news of the week, at least as of Wednesday morning, because that's when we're recording, it's the choice of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as the Democrats' vice presidential candidate. By now you know that he's a second-term governor, he was a six-term Congress member, and he served in the National Guard. But also, he's good at fixing a car, hunting for pheasants, and speaking Mandarin. So with that combination, Ben, how's he going to play? Will he help the ticket here in Central New York?
Yeah, his background in the military as a teacher, as a coach, as a congressman, he also came from a town of 400, so he understands small town America.
How about with rural farmers and all? He grew up on a farm.
He did, yes, absolutely.
And that might have some kind of appeal. Anirban?
Yeah, I think he injected a kind of energy into that despondency that we were talking about, Sarah, a few weeks ago. He's funny, he's energetic, he knows how to quip and jab in a very interesting way, but he's also progressive. He had bought in free school lunches, he had paid family leave and medical leave, and college tuition, free college tuition for people under 80,000. So he's a very good labor choice. A lot of labor groups came out and said he's very good. And for some reason or the other, like I actually enjoyed, I'm a very jaded skeptic political scientist trained to be critical of everything, but I was feeling hope. He seemed like Louis Black, only kind of better, kind of a Louis Black kind of a comedian. And he really worked the crowd very, very well. And I do think he stands a chance. He single-handedly coined this word weird to describe, Trump and his...
Sarah gave weird an A last week.
That's right. Call him weird, and Trump and his, couch lovers, I suppose. But at the end of the day, he comes out very hopeful. He talks about ideas of neighbors instead of using words like fellow Americans or things like that. So I see hope. I see hope, and I also see Trump melting over Truth Social. And whenever Trump melts, it's a good day for us, I think, at least for me.
I would absolutely disagree. Quite frankly, I think what Harris has done is chosen a folksier version of herself. I mean, he's just as progressive as she is. And I'm not sure that that is going to play as well in rural areas, because to a certain extent, it's almost as if she chose a stereotype of what people from the Midwest are like, what people from rural areas are like. And if he had been a stereotype and been a little bit more moderate, that might work out very well. But basically, like I say, she chose someone who pretty much agrees with all of her policies. Now, if the quote-unquote insiders who have been giving little tidbits of what the process was like are to be believed, there's also something else that may be of concern, and that is that she purposely chose someone who wouldn't challenge her, who wouldn't sort of steal her thunder. And if we can get any sort of proof that that was truly part of her thought process, then that's certainly something that could be played upon on the campaign trail.
I mean, I think those are really interesting points, Tara, and I'm glad we're disagreeing a little bit. I do think, he is progressive. He has a very progressive policy record. But I think, a little bit about what Anirban said I agree with, which is he knows how to defend that record in, I think, terms that people can understand, right? And he's not backing down on it. And I think that that's certainly appeals to the left and large swaths of the Democratic Party. But when you talk about, feeding kids, and giving people time off when they have a sick child or an elderly parent that needs care, those are also just kitchen table issues that I think a vast majority of Americans would support and can get behind. And so and I think that he also adds something to the ticket, which, maybe another reason she chose him is because she understands that part of the campaign is about getting attention, keeping momentum. And it's really hard to break through these days. People's attention is consumed by so many other things. Not all of us are political junkies. I am, that's paying attention to the election 24/7. And he broke through. He broke through on social media with these, with this weird, phrase, and also just kind kind of this folksy nature. And he, I know the online world is not reality, but boy, the people online are excited.
Yeah.
And there's this, dad memes going around now, like people, are talking about him like he's your father. And I think that is, and something intangible about it that's really important.
Right, and perception is reality. I mean, that's the bottom line. So it does come down to the messaging, I think, is what Tara was hitting on. Yes, Mark Kelly would have been the more moderate pick, but they also know that they have to hit the ground running, and they are hitting a lot of places, and it's got to come across genuine. He comes across genuine. The story is there. Yes, he's got some progressive views. He's a Democrat. But he's also a proud gun owner and does believe in the Second Amendment, but also keeping other people safe. So that is an important message to get across.
What about the police community? Because he's gotten some flack over handling all of the riots and all after George Floyd. So where will the law enforcement community be on him?
Well, generally speaking, the law enforcement community tends to be Republican to start with. But I do think that a lot of that, yes, it was awful, and yes, there were some things that should have taken place sooner, but the National Guard isn't an answer all. It should have been additional law enforcement that were called in to help that agency rather than sending in troops that don't have a whole lot of training and crowd control, and that tends to make things historically worse than better, and I think he understood that.
Last word for...
So I think the fundamental thing that he is being able to do, he's making Trump and his company look jaded, backward, pale and stale, wearing tin hats in their basement. Whereas this group seems to be energized group. And yes, what is bad with school meals? He keeps talking about one beautiful thing, the common good. He grew up in a small town with 400 people, and they thought about the common good. So what is the common good? And these are the questions that Trump cannot answer. He will start hyperventilating and getting extremely defensive, and it will be a fun time. It will be a fun time to troll Trump and his company.
Well, many political scientists say the vice president doesn't really matter a lot with the tickets, but it could be different this year. We will see.